If you're even the tiniest bit involved when it comes to the world of video games, then you have most likely heard of the Fallout series. Fallout was originally created by game studio Interplay in 1997 as a top down role playing game that saw the main character, known as the Vault Dweller or the Wanderer, exploring the barren, desolate wasteland of Southern California 84 years after a nuclear war destroyed the world. The protagonist is given the task of acquiring a water chip in order to repair the one in his underground home, Vault 13. The game itself was fairly successful, enough so that a sequel was created just a year later, this time focused on the grandkid of the Vault Dweller from the first game, this time called the Chosen One. In Fallout 2, the player is tasked with saving their village from both famine and drought. After completing this task, the Chosen One must then fight a group known as the Enclave, which was created from what remained of the United States government before the war, which was the same group responsible for the creation of the underground vaults. In 2001, the studio released a spin-off game titled Fallout Tactics: Brotherhood of Steel. The game revolved around a squad of the title group, the Brotherhood of Steel, a militant, quasi-religious group that had come to power in the new post-apocalyptic world. They also released another spin-off in 2004 called Fallout: Brotherhood of Steel. The game tells the story of an initiate in the Brotherhood of Steel. However, this game was, and is, fairly unpopular in the Fallout fanbase and has since been declared not canon in the Fallout universe. After having seen the success of the first two mainline games, game company Bethesda bought the title from Interplay and in 2008 released Fallout 3, which completely changed the formula that the other two games had established. This move, however, would prove to be a very, very smart decision. Bethesda turned the game from a top-down turn-based RPG into an open-world first-person shooter slash RPG with elements of survival horror. It also ditched the setting of the two previous games, leaving the scorching desert of Southern California and moving instead to the capital wasteland of Washington, D.C. The player is put in the shoes of a Vault 101 resident who must flee into the wasteland when the Overseer tries to arrest them after their father leaves the vault. After entering the wasteland, the character is known as the Lone Wanderer, and they are now on the hunt for their missing father. The game was released to massive amounts of praise. It was awarded many Game of the Year awards, and has an average score of 91 on Metacritic for the PC version. However, this would not be the peak of the Fallout series' critical success. That would come less than 2 years later, in 2010, with the release of spin-off game Fallout New Vegas. For the next entry in their newly acquired franchise, Bethesda enlisted game company Obsidian to develop the next chapter in the Fallout world, this time set in the Sin City wasteland of New Vegas. Obsidian had just come off the heels of making another of the greatest RPGs of all time, Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic 2. The development team was given a total of 18 months to create the world and story of New Vegas. They were also told that they would only receive a bonus for their work if the game received a score of at least 85 on Metacritic. This was an insane challenge, but Obsidian took their offer and began their work. They released Fallout New Vegas 18 months after the release of Fallout 3 on October 19, 2010. The game was a commercial success and won numerous amounts of Game of the Year awards. However, the game launched in a significantly buggy state, and the game received a score of 84 on Metacritic, therefore denying them of the bonus. However, as years have gone by since the release of the game has received many patches to fix the bugs, and the critical reception has gone up enormously. But what exactly made this game so special and much better than its predecessor? This is why I believe that Fallout New Vegas is one of the greatest games ever made. To answer one part of my previous question, there are several reasons that New Vegas is much better than the game that came before it. One of these reasons is the core story of the games. While the story is interesting in concept, the execution is not as good as expected. The story tells you that you should be looking for your father, but the game gives you so many reasons to venture off the main quest and do something else. Whether it's going to the town of Megaton and being given the decision of whether or not to set off an unexploded nuke sitting in the middle of the town, or finding an old lady's missing violin, Fallout 3 always has something more interesting to do than the main quest. However, when it comes to Fallout New Vegas, this is not the case. When starting Fallout New Vegas, the player is put into the shoes of a male courier who has just been robbed, shot in the head, and then subsequently rescued by a robot cowboy named Victor. The player is then tasked with finding out who robbed you and why. The player is then given full freedom on choosing what they want to do, whether it be continuing the main story or going off the beaten path and exploring the world of the Mojave. The difference, though, with New Vegas compared to Fallout 3 is that doing almost any side quest will give you some important information that you will need to use in the main storyline. You can ask almost any character you meet for information regarding who the man that shot you is and where he was going. There's also a secondary storyline going on while you search for the man, focused on the upcoming war for the Hoover Dam. Throughout the entirety of the game, you are given choices of what factions in the world you want to help in the battle for power over the Hoover Dam. There are a multitude of different factions that the player can choose to align themselves with. There's Caesar's Legion, a group of warriors run by a man who calls himself Caesar, whose lifestyle is very clearly based on ancient Rome. The group tortures and crucifies any person who they feel has committed any sort of sin against them. There's the NCR, or the New California Republic, which basically serves as the newly destroyed world's military. They want to take over and become the new governmental figure in the wasteland. They believe that they can protect the people of the wasteland and make it a safer place. However, the leadership is shown many times to be completely incompetent, and their military bases are constantly understaffed. They are always dealing with some sort of threat or problem, and so they ask you, a random person that isn't in their group, to help them. They're just an absolute mess. Then there's Robert House, the man who runs the New Vegas Strip. He's the man you were supposed to deliver the important package to. He wants to restore New Vegas to the way it was before the nuclear apocalypse. However, this would involve him being in control of the entire strip and using his own weaponized Securitron robots to maintain order. These three factions are the major story important ones, but there are a ton more throughout the wasteland to find and learn more about. There's the Boomers, a group that enjoys bombing people. There are the Followers of the Apocalypse, who are just like weirder Mormons. There's the White Glove Society, a group of cannibals working out of the Ultralux Hotel on the New Vegas Strip. There are also so many others, like the Brotherhood of Steel, the Jackals, the Greasers, the Powder Gangers, the people of Novak, or Freeside, or Goodsprings. There are so many groups to meet and forge alliances with, or, if the player chooses to, absolutely massacre like the degenerate that they want to be. Quick little side thing about that. One of the other beautiful things about this game, you can kill anyone you want. Are you in the middle of a quest for Caesar, but you've come to realize that you think he's a scumbag who deserves a shotgun round to the head? Well, then put that round in there. Do you not like your companion anymore? Send them away, or even kill them if you want to. Not only can the player kill almost anyone, but the game will also change because of the player's choice to kill specific people. There are hidden dialogue voice lines from other characters if you were to kill a certain character earlier than intended. Alright.
Back to formula.
The player also has the option to be independent and work with the man who shot you, Benny, the owner of the Tops Casino, and or his robot helper, Yes Man. Yes Man is specifically programmed to do whatever anyone tells him to, even if he doesn't think he should. When the player meets him, he can interrogate him on what Benny's plan is and can decide to start the independent Vegas questline. By completing this questline, the player can essentially become the sole owner of the New Vegas Strip. After taking over, Yes Man will allow the player to meet and choose which factions he wants to spare or destroy in the upcoming war for the Hoover Dam. The player can then gain control of an army of weaponized Securitrons and will ultimately take control of the dam. That's just one of 4 of the different endings of this game, which each have different outcomes for all of the factions and the world of the Mojave moving forward. Depending on what the player chooses to do and who they want to align with, the ending of the game will have severely different outcomes. What outcomes, you may be asking? Well, play the game. I don't want to spoil the fun. Also, that would take such a long time to go through all of them, and I kind of don't feel like doing that. Basically, just play the game because it's absolutely worth it. There are so many other things that I could talk about that make Fallout New Vegas the masterpiece that it is, but I didn't really want to make this into a long video. If you want a more in-depth look at some of the gameplay and or RPG systems of the game and why they're so good, you should definitely check out the Act Man's video on it. It's called Why is Fallout New Vegas So Awesome? And I will also put a link to the video in the description. That video is partially my inspiration for why I decided to make this. Well, that and I just love talking about video games, man. They're kind of cool if you didn't know. Highly recommend them. They're super fun. Video games. Anyways, in short, Fallout New Vegas not only lets the player do what they want, when they want, and how they want, but it also takes their actions into account. That's exactly how an open world RPG should work. The player should have total freedom in the way they approach the game, while also knowing that there are consequences for their actions. And that's why I believe that Fallout New Vegas is one of the greatest games of all time. Thanks for watching.